This is the start of a new series that is going to be called A Historical Dive into the Church Fathers on Mary. In this series, what we'll be doing is examining the Church Fathers to see what they taught about our Blessed Mother. Now, I'm going to show you a couple clips of different Protestants, and this is going to show you what inspired me to make this series.
When Constantine converted to Christianity all the way back in the early 4th century, and then, of course, the Roman Empire officially converted to Christianity a few decades later under the reign of Theodosius in the year 380. As a result of that conversion, you have a lot of people who are now forced to be Christians who used to be pagans. And Calvin has this great line. He says that the Roman Empire was baptized without actually being converted. In other words, people claimed to be Christians, they were forced to become Christians, but in their hearts they were still, in many cases, still pagan. So they brought with them into Christendom their pagan practices. And they used to pray to, venerate, bow down before, light votive candles for all of the pagan Greco-Roman deities. But now they can't do that anymore, so they simply exchanged that pantheon of Greco-Roman deities for a pantheon of saints, including Mary.
All right, so we see Mariology, as we know it today, being introduced 5th century, give or take. It's hard to, when it comes to history, you can't always just go July 4th. But you said there were other things that started to get introduced. What were those things?
Yeah, well, and even with Mariolatry, we see developments of that even as late as Vatican I in 1870, where they just keep adding things into this bucket of we want to elevate Mary.
Do the early church fathers have unanimous agreement on the doctrine of the Catholic Church? Absolutely not. Somebody said years ago, and I think there's a certain amount of truth, you can prove almost anything by going to the church fathers, because there's so much diversity, and because you don't always know the context, you can take what they say and send it one direction or another. But how could the early church fathers support unanimously the doctrines of the Catholic Church when the doctrines of the Catholic Church didn't even develop until after the church fathers? I mean, there are so many components of Catholicism that came after the church fathers. In the councils, say from 325 to 725, there were solid things that were decided that the church fathers would agree on, things that had to do with Trinitarianism and the deity of Christ and things like that. But all kinds of things developed in Catholicism over time that the early church fathers don't even address.
Protestantism has a more realistic and compelling relation to church history. Cardinal Newman famously said, "To be deep in history is to cease to be a Protestant." And to be sure, many contemporary Protestants do have a shallow historical consciousness. But Protestantism as such was nothing other than an effort of historical retrieval. The magisterial reformers appealed to the church fathers just as much and sometimes more than they appealed to Scripture to oppose what they saw as the novel accretions and innovations of the medieval West.
Now, historically, the case we can make against Mary, right off the bat, the early church is silent on the issue of Mary having anything to do with redemption.
The dogmatic concept of Immaculate Conception is unknown to the first 1,000 years of church history and stands inalterably opposed to its constant witness to the uniqueness of Christ as alone without sin.
So the claim, as Sam and William tried to do a minute ago, that the earliest church fathers all taught, all universally the things that they have today, is completely bunk. They did not teach the Marian doctrines. You cite, Sammy or William, one reference from 300 AD or earlier, any church leader or father that taught the perpetual virginity of Mary, meaning after she gave birth to Jesus, she continued to remain a virgin. Cite one. Good luck.
Now, the reason why I play these different clips of these Protestants is to give a kind of backdrop to the Protestant stance on the early church. The claim that the early church did not believe in Catholic doctrines, or that they did not believe in the Catholic doctrines of Mary, is just simply false. And this is one of the main reasons that motivated me to do this series, to disprove this Protestant claim and to defend our Blessed Mother. But also, one other goal of this series is to simply examine Scripture and our Blessed Mother through the lens of the Church Fathers, to see how they saw Mary prefigured in the Old Testament, and to see how much they elevated Mary to this place of great honor. But in closing, I hope that these upcoming videos will be edifying for your faith, and that your devotion to our Mother may be greatly inflamed with love of God. May we all strive to reach Jesus in the way which he came to us, through his most blessed Mother, Mary.